Grace and peace and one love to all. If you can hear us, please type in a 7 and Shabbat Shalom to all.
Shabbat Shalom.
All right, bless up. Brother John, greetings from the Zion Assembly. Shalom. Today's lesson is entitled The Winter Solstice Deceptions, Christmas and Hanukkah. A celebration of evil, a time of darkness, so beware. As we get into this topic, it's about Jah's Almanac, the true scriptural calendar, and we will have our calendar ready for all to get for this year. It's been already available, and we'll talk about that another time. Let us pray.
Let us pray. Our Father which art in heaven, hallowed be your name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us for our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us out of temptations, and deliver and rescue us from all evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and all the glory forever. And the love and the authority of your Son, Jehoshua, the Messiah, our Savior, we pray.
So be it. Praise John. Today's date is the 12th day of the 11th month Sabbath for the year 6225 from origination, equivalent to December 20th, 2025 AD. This is the 45th Sabbath of the year, day 315. That means there's only 7 Sabbaths or 49 days left in the year. As you look at our 28-year cycle, here we are on calendar 9. Next year we will be on calendar 10. As we look at our monthly almanac, this is the 2,273,621st day from creation as you count individual days. Again, this is the 45th Sabbath of the year and day 315. And here we are on the 12th. 2 more Sabbaths for this month. And then we'll be getting into the last month, the 12th month Adar. The Gregorian calendar, as you know, will be switching up in a few weeks. Let's say almost maybe 9 to 10 days. And or even a little bit longer. Let's say almost say 2 weeks. And we'll talk about that today. Again, Shabbat Shalom to all the brothers and sisters joining us today. As we remind everyone, tomorrow is Babylon's solstice time. And as you can see on Jah's Almanac, the 15th is midwinter. You can say 15th and 16th going through, covering kind of those 2 days. It's the equivalent to the 23rd of December. So the solstice kind of shows up this year 2 days before. But nonetheless, this winter solstice is the midwinter solstice, as we'll be talking about some of those things today. Looking at the yearly almanac, always reminding everyone that the true scripture years begin on the first day of the week and always end on the 7th day of the week. All the festivals are fixed, whether it's Passover, first fruits, trumpets, the Day of Atonement, tabernacles, or even the Feast of Dedication that occurs in the 9th month, the 25th day. All of these festivals occur on the same day and dates of the week, and the week-long festivals begin from the first day of the week and go until the 7th day of the week, always. Purim occurs in the 12th month, and that's over in January. January is equivalent to the 12th month, according to the true scriptural time frames of the Most High. And of course, the equinoxes and solstices are the midpoints, the equidistance of Jah's true seasons, as you can see on the screen. Always will be the middle, not the beginning of the true scriptural seasons. And here we are today. As always, all praise, glory, and honor to Jah, Yah, our Abba, and his only begotten Son, Jehoshua the Messiah, the Nazareth that died for our sins, also respectively known as Yehoshua, Yahusha, Yahawashah, Yahshua, Yeshua, Jesus, Joshua, the Messiah, Hamashiach, the Christ, the true Son of the Most High, who died for our sins, and of which is our great, great hope. So again, as we get into this topic, it's about Jah's Almanac. And as I said earlier on, this Jazz Almanac is ready for those who wish to get it, whether it's in a small kind of desktop form or a calendar form, like this. I won't be
Mhm.
talking much just about the calendar today, but definitely just as a reminder, when we're going through these things, you'll see some of these things will be a part of Jazz Almanac. So as we look at calendars and almanacs, I want to know that there's a semi difference, but we call we call the scriptural calendar an almanac. An almanac is the true word for things. But let's just get a little bit of basic understanding, Brother Javed.
Mhm. A calendar is a basic system to mark days, weeks, and months for organizing time. An almanac is a yearly guide, book, or writing that includes a calendar, but adds extensive information like astronomical data, moon phases, tides, eclipses, weather forecasts, planting guides, holidays, and other facts, making it a detailed reference tool beyond just dates. Essentially, an almanac is a comprehensive guide for the year using the calendar as its framework.
All right, so a little bit of a difference, between a calendar and an almanac, and you can almost say that the same things. I mean, anciently, and not even anciently, back in the days, even in the 1500s, and even in the Caribbean, and still in the world, people call calendars an almanac,
Mhm.
and the word calendar actually comes from a Greek word, or sorry, Roman word, Latin word, dealing with calends, and that is the first of their lunar month. It's actually really a calendar, but for the sake of communication, I know people will use the term calendar, but we will be using almanac a lot if you haven't seen that in our writings. So we call the scriptural calendar Jazz Almanac. So it's really the scriptural almanac, but as we present it, everything is formed in an almanac, as well as you'll get the calendar dates as well.
Mhm.
So, I mean, when you think of a calendar, of course, something that just displays simply the dates. And then an almanac, if you're familiar with the Farmer's Almanac, it's something that I like to, use a lot. This is the last one. This is for the year 2026. As it goes over, they usually start their time frames from like September, October. And there's no more Farmer Almanac, so this is the last one. If you ever want to get one, you could probably try to go online and eBay to get a few other ones. I collect them, and it's something that has so much information in it, like more than just a calendar and telling you the days and dates, although it has that as well. And Jazz Almanac is kind of in that same area. There's various almanacs, and really, when you get back into the days, almanacs were very, very popular. Very popular. Just the same way that the Farmer's Almanac is popular today, and even the Canadian Farmer's Almanac is still going on. Every kind of country has a Farmer's Almanac, and it's a very important tool, especially for farmers and gardeners and those who are using the sun, moon, and stars for agricultural purposes. And it also includes information about astrology. No, we're not into astrology at all, and not even really astronomy, but nonetheless, these books will have a lot of information and that understanding. Continuing, Brother Javed.
Mhm. An almanac, also spelled as you see there with a K or a CH, having the same sound as a K, is a published listing of a set of current information about one or multiple subjects, depending on the genre. It includes information like weather forecasts, farmers' planting dates, tides tables, and other tubular data, often arranged according to the calendar. Celestial figures and various statistics are found in almanacs, such as the rising and setting times of the sun, moon, dates of eclipses, hours of high and low tides, and religious festivals. The set of events noted in an almanac may be tailored for a specific group of readers, such as farmers, sailors, or astronomers, etc.
So you can have various types of almanacs, right? Gardening almanacs, and farmer's almanac. You have an astronomer's almanac, and they'll all have different types of information depending on what you're looking at. And as you see on your screen, when you're dealing with the farmer's almanac, there's a lot of other information, whether it's dealing with the places and where the planets are located, Lots of astronomy, as I said, sometimes some ancient wisdom, um, certain lore that is dealing with dates and calendars. So all of this information you'll find in most almanacs. But when it comes to Jazz Almanac, we're not really focused a lot on these astronomical events. And although, it'd be possible for us to tabulate maybe the lunar cycle, but the lunar cycle has no bearing in Jah's holy festivals, his months, or anything of that nature. It does have great significance when it comes to agriculture, planting, reaping, and sowing, and time for sowing, and even it's connected to the rainy seasons as well. But Jah's Almanac doesn't tabulate astronomical events, and we just deal with scriptural understandings. And what you see on your screen is this year's desktop almanac for the year 2026 or 6226.
Looks good.
Go ahead, brother.
Jah's Almanac contains extensive information about scriptural timeframes and scriptural history. It includes information on scriptural chronology and time, which includes the weeks within the biblical months, the agricultural and natural seasons, cycles of years, and includes the true appointed days and dates of the 7 scriptural holy convocations. The information in Jah's Almanac is for all people, but is tailored for a specific group of people, namely the true believers in the Messiah, or as we say, Messians, whether natural Israelites or believers of other nations.
That's right. So all this information, is included in Jah's Almanac, and you'll see, again, this is the wall calendar, information about the almanac. You'll have the first couple of pages dealing with, the names and understandings of the names, an understanding of the 7,000-year cycle, and various detailed information, right? Continuing, brother.
Jah's Almanac doesn't include astronomical information that are found in worldly almanacs, such as the astronomical data for the sun, moon, and stars. It specifically and accurately references information on scriptural time cycles and prophetical time frames relevant to the Father and Son's program of salvation. It's packed with scriptural knowledge for all.
That's right. So when you get into, again, Jah's Almanac and you see the various pages, and this year's theme is definitely the 7,000-year cycle. You'll have various cycles and understandings of calendars, 28-year cycles, all the Jubilee cycles for our era that we're in, whether it's talking about the land of Israel and the proper climates, the amount of daylight, precipitation, climate averages, information about the holy festivals, about the astronomical calendar and the true solar season time frames, the dates of the festivals, and of course, including the 12-month yearly cycle of Jah's Almanac. So, just letting you know that Jah's Almanac is quite thorough. It has involved in a lot of things. And when if you have the older books, you'll see that in Jah's Almanac, there's chronology and all kind of different time frames. And then hopefully with this year's edition, it'll be more concise, but very much thorough and easy to handle and understand, because, as you know, calendar topics are quite technical and detailed. But if you're paying attention and you have a mind for it, you can grasp onto a lot of things.
Mm-hmm.
And as you can see, this year's calendar is set out in blue.
Nice.
So both calendars, whether it's the Gregorian calendar or you're dealing with lunar calendars or even anything dealing with the Enoch calendars, although the Gregorian Baal solar calendar is understood to be false by many Israelite and Gentile believers, the trick is that the lunisolar calendar is also false, and even with its lunar months. And it's really the ancient Egyptian calendar honoring both Baal, which is sun worship, and his wife Ashtaroth, or Esther, also known as Luna, in moon worship. And when we look in history, we can see that, governing this world has been Satan from time, coming through the Tower of Babel, Egypt, all the empires or the leaders and the countries that were running things after Egypt, whether it was the Shemite or Hamite nations, Ammon, Moab, Edom, Canaan, Nineveh, they all had their turn, doing things. Of course, Assyria came on the scene. Then another set of Babylon came on the scene with Belteshazzar and Nebuchadnezzar. You had the Medes and the Persians. You have the Greeks, the Romans. We have the, as in the present right now, we're in the United Gentile World Nations. So, all the continents are kind of together in one thing and not really under one great empire, although the empire is there, but it's still sort of sleeping in underground, which will lead to the future Greco-Roman 10-nation anti-Messiah Gentile Babylonian kingdom.
Mhm.
So you've seen basically through time all the history of the great empires that were on the earth, and guess what? They all use the same type of calendar time frames that put the equinoxes and the solstices as special times of worship. They were always understood at those times as being the middle of the seasons, but due
Mhm.
to modern deceptions through the Gentiles and everything, although they can't cover up all the lies, people think that like it's been cold and raining and snowy since the beginning of November, but people are going to wait till tomorrow, the solstice, so to speak, to say, hey, it's really winter, and that's known as the shortest night of the year. But it's a great deception. Great deception that I want to cover today. And today we have lots of videos. I probably have more videos than actual talking. But when we do watch these videos, I want you to remember that it's based upon, some of these things are based upon the timing of an idea of a globe, right? A solar
Mhm.
system. So when they talk about, why the earth is having a solstice here or there, they're going to use that. But you use your wisdom and understand and kind of read between those lines and just listen out very carefully as you're going through, because a lot of information is going to be shared today is quite unique, and there's a great deception. I bet you know of many people, especially in the world, if they're trying to keep the Most High's festivals. This time, some people have just finished, so-called the Feast of Dedication, also called Hanukkah, Shanukkah, Chanukah, if you want to use any of that terms there. Also, because there's different people following different aspects of the lunar cycle, whether it's the full moon, the dark moon, the crescent, or if they're trying to use an Enoch type of count. Nonetheless, they're all looking at winter solstice as being the beginning of the winter season. That's right. All satanic religions and everything are all part of it. And sad to say, even well-meaning believers in the Christian world who, when I say in the Christian world, the ones who believe in keeping the festivals, they'll call themselves Christian, but they keep the festivals and they understand certain things about the law. And then, of course, about Israelites who are in that same category, but nonetheless, they still unite in satanic harmony at
Mhm.
these satanic seasons. And these seasons aren't just seasons. And this is what today is all about, because you hear me talk about the equinoxes and solstices a lot. And if today doesn't kind of at least, shake your cage or, kind of touch your mind, then, the calendar information is definitely not for you. And, you kind of just follow your own heart and do what you want. But these times are very, very evil. And I just want to really let you know that. And today's lesson, I hope, hits it home.
Mm. Good point, Brother Sean. And I like what you said about all the calendars of the world, including the ones you see here of these world ruling empires, past and present and future. All of their important dates and holidays are all based upon astronomical observances. And this is where the calendar, Jah's almanac, the calendar that he gave his children of Israel to follow, is very different compared to the rest of the world.
That's right, brother. That's exactly right. And Shabbat Shalom to all who are joining us today. Auntie Emma, Greg, Mama Greg, the Monroe family out there. As you've seen some, Sister Curry, Sister Andrea, Brother John, also Brother John's family, Fire Sky, Zariah. Jaran is also out there. Shout out to Jaran, Janessa. Bless up to Corey Bowen. And happy Sabbath to you and all others. I hope I didn't miss anybody. And if I did, shalom to you nonetheless. Let's get
Yes.
into this.
Shabbat Shalom, all the brethren and sisters, and to you, Brother Sean.
You too, Lion. All right. So again, when it comes down to these calendars, what you will call here is the Mazarath, or, the constellations, the astrology, astronomy. It doesn't matter what it is. These are things that, these solstices and equinoxes are based upon. And a lot of people don't know the witchcraft behind these things when it comes to, the zodiac signs and what's going on and why they call it, you know, the beginning of this and that season. There's a lot of deception. See, for the most part, I've seen that when it comes down to the Most High's holy truths, and it comes down to the devil, there's a mark of and sign of Jah, and then there's also the mark and sign of the beast. And you've heard things about that. Now, I think I have a couple of lessons on my channel of Mark and the Beast. I had to take down one because it got flagged because it got so deep into that thing that they were putting in people's arms the other day. And so I had to take it down because they thought it was giving false information. But I know that when we talk about the mark of the beast, it's and the number of his name and the number of his mark, name, and number, right? Number of his name, and his name and the mark are all evil things. And right now, the mark of the beast is all on the world right now, as you know it. Because when you start to learn the true things, you have to learn what the true signs and marks of true worship are. Right. And when it comes down to this understanding, you're going to see that calendars and festivals play a big part. I mean, almost every religion, every culture would have a calendar that they observe their festivals to their God and to whatever it is that they worship, whether it's their ancestor worship, sun, moon, and stars, animals, and all of that. But they have a calendar that is governed to keep these special times. And for the most part, the whole world is united in keeping astronomical, solar, and equinoxes, solstices and equinoxes greatly as the beginning of seasons. It's a great, great, great deception. And I know nobody's talking about it. And information like this can go over your head because if, when you start to look at it, it's like, so what are you trying to say? That spring doesn't begin in March and, this and that. And the thing is, that's true. Spring really, truly begins in February, the first week. February in particular. And when you start to understand this, it goes way back anciently. You can prove it modernly. You can go into your Holy Bible. You can look at the rainy and summer, rainy and dry seasons, or the summer and winter seasons. You can look at ancient fossils of understandings of when spring is. There's so much. I mean, up-to-date stuff and things you can look in the past. And so I know that this world already is dealing with a part of the mark of the devil, false festivals, calendars, seasons, feasts, even ignoring them, and lawlessness. I mean, that should be very clear to us that lawlessness is the mark of the adversary. Brother Javid, take a read here.
In the scriptures, we see that the law, the Sabbath, and feasts are all signs or marks of the true El and his true worship. Therefore, the marks and signs of the devil are lawlessness, a false holy day, and false feasts. Deuteronomy 11, verse 18, therefore shall ye lay up these my words in your heart and in your soul, and bind them for a sign upon your hand, that they may be as frontlets between your eyes.
All right. Now, I don't know if I'm cracking. Do you hear me when I talk? There's like a little bit of a crack, David. I'm not sure. I do know.
You sound pretty clear. So okay, I don't really hear a cracking sound.
When you speak, I hear a little bit of a crack, like, when like a wire is like a little bit loose or something, or maybe if you blow into the mic or something just to clear it out. I just hear a little bit of crackling on your end. Now, I don't know if it's my speaker either, but everything else seems clear. But I mean, don't worry about it. I'll let you know if it still continues. You're still able to be heard.
All right.
So, I mean, we can see here that, the words of the Most High are like a sign on our hand, right? And God's not asking you to print things and put on your hand, or put these things called frontlets on your forehead or anything of that nature. Between your eyes or in your forehead is your mind. His laws are supposed to be in our mind, and your hand represents your actions, the works that you do, right? So this is what he's saying. He's not saying, tie these commandments on your hand, because how is that going to make you keep them? It's remember these things, tie them so close to you like you're on your hand, but let them be a part of all your actions, and of course all your thoughts. So when we kind of know this and we kind of look through other verses, we can see that the scriptures show us that the Sabbaths and holy days are a sign between us and him. Take note.
Right. Ezekiel 20 verse 12. Moreover, also I gave them my Sabbaths to be a sign between me and them, that they might know that I am Jah that sanctify them. And hallow my Sabbaths, and they shall be a sign between me and you, that ye may know that I am Jah your Elohim. Exodus 31 verse 13. Speak thou also unto the children of Israel, saying, Verily my Sabbaths ye shall keep. For it is a sign between me and you throughout your generations, that you may know that I am Jah that doth sanctify you.
Okay. So, as we look into things, we see that, these are signs between his people. Hollow his signs. Again, he says it's a sign. Look at, he says, they shall be a sign between me and you. That is like he says about a Sabbath. So it shall be a sign between me and you, that you may what? Know who the true creator is.
That's right.
So when you look at it from this aspect, you can kind of see that, hey, the mark of the beast is on this earth. Christmas, mark of the beast. Easter, mark of the beast. Hanukkah, or Feast of Dedication, held at this time, mark of the beast. Oh, yeah. You might think, oh, well, we're keeping the Most High's feast. We're keeping Yahweh's feast or Yahuwah's feast. And, we're doing it. And yes, it has links to the Maccabees and the Feast of Dedication. We honor it too, but we put it in the correct area that it's supposed to be in. You understand? And that's definitely not attached to any solstice or equinox. The Most High's, his festivals aren't governed around those things at all. You'll notice that the heathens stuff is governed around these festivals.
That's right. And one thing to remember for those who scoff at Jah's Sabbath day, Jah has never, ever voided or done away with his holy.
Go ahead. Yeah, go ahead. Yep.
Jah has never voided or done away with his holy Sabbath, which is the sign between him and his people.
That's right. For the book, Corey, if you wait a couple of weeks, I'm going to be re-releasing the book. It's being worked on, almost done, and it's almost going to come like into 2 sections. But if you want to get the calendars, you could just definitely check on my channel, and I'll make a talk about that after the lesson, because it's Sabbath, right? So again, letting you know the signs. So let's look at some reasons for, as we get into these videos. Like I say, quite a lot of videos today, and I want to make sure I get through them. Listen very intently. What I want to show you and prove today, family, is when we get into this and this deception of things. I mean, I know Santa Claus, Satan Claus, and there's, you can know a lot of the history, whether it's related to a real Roman Catholic guy named Saint Nick, and then they have Black Pete, and they have, and it's really Satan giving gifts, pretending to be the Most High, riding in the sky, 8 reindeer, and the number 8 is very important when it comes to this understanding, number 8 and number 12, because these are hidden symbols that you can see when you know Jah's almanac. And, besides knowing these, the tree, and we're going to talk a little bit about these things, but I want you to see something a little bit more deeper, because I know you can just Google and YouTube those things, and people know about all of those things that I've listed, that it's pagan. And these things are true, it's pagan. But there's a depth when it comes to calendars and what they're dealing with, what's tricking you. And one of the main things you're going to see here is this theme. And I want it to really stand out, is that this winter solstice that they say is the beginning of winter and have all these pagan things, you have to understand that it's the middle of winter. Now it might seem like, well, the middle or the beginning, it doesn't matter. It does. And today, I hope you kind of see the importance that it really matters. Because if you're tricked to think that winter, the solstice, whether it's the summer solstice, the equinoxes, or the winter solstice are the beginning of those seasons, then you're caught up into the devil's things. And I know that what we teach today is going to go against everything that what you think a season is. And most of the stuff that we teach is like that for people. It's like, hey, you're gone too far. You said February, but we don't just say things. We explain things and look into things and show why those calendars are wrong and why the calendar that we profess is much more accurate and to the truth and to the Holy Bible than any other calendar out there in the world, which is attached to astronomy and to the false seasons. Once you deal with those seasons, it doesn't matter what you try to keep. You can't, it's like trying to, clean off the festivals in them, but you're going to keep them on pagan time frames. And one thing I do like and I appreciate is that I guess the Most High is moving people slowly and guiding us slowly, because for a long time people just thought the festivals were garbage or done away with or whatever it is, and they still kept their Christmas and all that stuff and their birthdays and everything. But then when you start to see now that people are awakening, they're knowing. Now people are trying to figure out which calendar is it? Is it the Jewish calendar? Is it a lunar month calendar? Is it the Zadok? Is it the Essene? Is it the Enoch and the Jubilee and all of these things? And that's okay. It's people getting more interested. But we've known this information for a long time, going over 30 years. And even when it goes back to the history, even a little bit longer. And we put these things to the test and can clearly tell you that Jah's almanac, the true scriptural almanac, is not tied to the solstices as the beginning of seasons at all. And it's quite devilish. And it's a very cunning trick by the devil that the whole world has fallen into.
That's right.
All right, brother, you ready to get into some things? All right.
Let's get right into it.
All right, so let's get a little bit of an introduction here. Again, I'm introducing to I want you to see the reasons for celebrating the solstices in the pagans area. And one more thing I want to say. When Christianity came on the scene and became a formal religion, the people who were using the old seasons, which are the true ancient seasons, where the solstices and equinoxes were the middle of the seasons, they automatically were called pagans. Now, they were pagans by their beliefs and what they believed in as their creator or gods or whatever, but they knew the true scriptural time frames better than the deceptive ones. I mean, even the Wiccans and all those people who you call modern day witches and who know about these different things, they know very clearly about, the cycles of the year and the different quarters. And when I say that they know, because we have Jah's almanac. So when you look at Jah's almanac and then you look into things and you start to see, hey, these guys know things. But no one's going to want to pay attention to it if you're in the scriptures. You're not going to say, well, that's pagan stuff. Look at that. The witches are keeping them and this and that. But I don't know how it works, but this is a cunning trick. You understand? And don't think people are just pagan just because they don't this and that. You'd be surprised how mainstream Christianity is paganism. The festivals that people want to keep as the Most High's festivals, but keep them at the solstices, just like people want to keep Hanukkah or the Feast of Dedication at this time, it's pagan.
That's right.
So there are these things in there. I'm not calling people pagans because I know we're coming out of the muck. So with that said, I want you to listen to these things. Most of these information come from the Gentiles because it's their times. And one thing I do know is that Egypt, all the black empires before Alexander the Great, all of them, they were doing these things too. Had a few different names. But when the Greeks came on, all they did was adopted and grabbed those things. That's why even Egypt became Alexandria, Egypt, right? And you start to see things become Gentile. This is where you got the Gentiles coming in, pretending that they're the people of the book, right? The goats pretending to be the sheep. The same way that, Jacob used goat skin to get the blessings from his father Isaac is because the goats are a different nature. Now the goats here are trying to pretend that they're sheep, but they're still goats. You understand? So a lot of the information comes from them, the Scots, the Germans, the Celts, because they were the only Gentiles that said, hey, we don't like Christianity, even though it was being blended in. Get what I'm saying, Brother Javed?
Yeah, no doubt.
All right, so let's get into this. Let's see what this brother has to say. Nice few minutes here, 5 minutes.
Hello, my name is Jacob Thompson, and welcome back to the Wisdom of Odin. For the majority of this year, I have been exploring Northern Europe, visiting many different ancient sites. And one of the things that many of these sites have in common is that they are aligning with the winter and summer solstices. And as this video is releasing on December 20th, one day before the Northern Hemisphere has its winter solstice, I do want to talk a little bit more about the winter solstice and its significance, not to just Northern Europe, but global culture and spiritual beliefs. And so in this video, I'm actually in America once again, so I'm going to be taking us on a road trip to visit a modern site that is honoring the winter and summer solstices in Ohio. And so this is a really beautiful location. I really can't wait to show it to you, but it is about 4 hours, give or take, from me. So it's going to be a little bit of a road trip, so I hope you enjoy the footage I have for you today, and of course, the information discussing the winter solstice and how it played a significant role in the ancient past and may still play a very important role in our spiritual understanding of the world today. So I probably don't need to share this opening bit, but just in case, if you don't know what the winter solstice is, the winter solstice is a scientific thing. So the Earth is on an axis, it tilts a bunch, and at some point it reaches its maximum tilt where the northern hemisphere is the furthest away from the sun, and this is the winter solstice. And then when it tilts back and goes forward, and we're now the closest to the sun in the northern hemisphere, that's the summer solstice, when we have the longest days, shorter days. And obviously this is something we take for granted now because we're just like, oh yeah, that's just life. But this is something that people really had to figure out for themselves in the ancient past. Oh, speaking of midwinter, one thing I forgot to mention as well is that the midwinter sun is another term for the solstice, because in ancient cultures the solstice wasn't the beginning of winter; it was midwinter. Whereas in our modern day, we're used to December 21st being the transition into winter. There were very soft seasons in the past. Autumn, in particular, was not typically overseen by the Northern Europeans. I do think that spring, to some extent, was, but for the most part, summer and winter were the two main extremes observed. And so winter solstice was at the midwinter point, which to me makes more sense because it's always felt weird to have the winter holiday at the beginning of winter. It makes more sense to have it at midwinter. But anyways, oh, and it's also the point where the sun is at its lowest. We have the darkest nights of the year. And then the sun returns. So saying midwinter does make more sense, in my opinion, and I think in the opinion of the ancient peoples as well. I do want to... Now, there are many more sites to talk about. There are sites across the British Isles, across Northern and Central Europe and the Americas that all have to do with the winter and summer solstice. And this is true not only in the structures, but also in the celebrations that come from these cultures. And one I want to put a little focus on here is the Yalda Night from Iran, which goes back to their times before converting to Islam. Yalda Night is something that's still practiced today in modern Iran and around Iran and within Iranian culture. And this is held on December 21st, roughly. And it's a night-long celebration where people stay up with their families, reading, playing games, having lots of foods and sweets, and generally having a really family-oriented time. And the main idea of this is that good and evil are representatives of light and dark. And so during the winter solstice, darkness and evil are at their height. And so to be inside with the family is to stay safe. To be out into the darkness is to put yourself at risk, because this is the time when evil is at its strongest. And so I really find this interesting, and I wonder how much this carries into the Indo-Europeanness, into Europe, and this understanding of winter, as well as this idea of good versus evil. Obviously, this is something that I think also goes with Christianity, as Christianity came into Europe, into the Middle East. But then I think there's also something to say with Balder, and Balder being the god of light, but not really the god of sun, and dying by the blind brother Hother. So good and evil, again, coming together in some way, or ignorance and bliss, or whatever you want to analyze that as. There's a lot to analyze, and obviously human beings have been doing this for a very long time, of sitting here observing the darker months and the lighter months, and thinking about them in the terms of just our humanity, our ethics. And so there's definitely something ingrained in us to observe these times of the year. And of course, Yalda Night is not the only solstice celebration. There are many more that happen as well, including Yule. But Yule is debatably not held on the solstice. It was probably held the first full moon after the new moon, after the solstice. But regardless, this time of observing the darker time of the month and moving on past that is something that's ingrained into our humanity. So with that, I do want to kind of talk a little bit about what this means. Like, what exactly does this mean for us as people today? Obviously, there's the, good versus evil, as we talked with Yalda Night. There's definitely that component. There's just the simple fact that the farmers, everyone revolved around the fields. Everyone's lives were more at risk from the loss of crops, were from the losses of winter. And so to have a night to celebrate it, and to celebrate the return of the sun, the promise of spring coming, this is something that, obviously to these early people would have been very significant. But I have a theory, and this is my theory, I think. I don't know if anyone else has ever suggested this, but obviously ancestors are an important part of Yule celebrations, of winter celebrations. And I think that maybe the reason that there are some passage graves that have these sight lines with the winter solstice specifically, where the sun comes into the graves, where the sun goes into the tombs, is because in the ancient past, 3,000-4,000 years ago, the people believed that when the sun was at its lowest, when it was at the winter solstice, since the sun was entering its truest form of death and then the rebirth, is that that rebirthing sun had the ability to bring life into the departed. And so that warmth of the winter solstice sun was the promise of rebirth. And we know that from the early Celts, that rebirth was something reincarnation was something they believed in. But also maybe to bring people back just for a night of celebration or for a time. And so it was believed that the warmth of the sun also brought back the dead. Maybe. Let me know down below what you think. But I think that, there's obviously a reason that they saw that this light and death were important for some reason. And I'd be really curious to figure out that more. And what I truly believe is, even though all we're left with is speculation, we do know one very important truth, and that's that nearly every single ancient culture from all around the world observed this time of year. They built something to honor this time of year. They had some kind of celebration, because the changing of winter into summer, the return of light, the triumph of good, all of these themes are at the core of humanity, and it's all something that we wish to celebrate. And so I think that this time of year, the celebration of the winter holidays, is something to truly cherish. And if possible within your own life, coming to a place to honor the return of the summer sun is something that not only connects you to your ancient ancestors, it connects you to the science of our world. This is a significant point where we stop going this way and we start going that way. That's pretty cool. So even if you're an atheist, atheists, I think that's pretty darn cool, and you should observe that too. And then, of course, if you see the sun as some form of godly-like being, obviously the sun coming back more into power is something that would be important to you too. So I think there are many different reasons why to celebrate the winter solstice.
Okay, family. So listen, now you got a lot of information. Obviously, I don't believe all that pagan stuff, but I want you to know what's going on here. Things that stand out very clearly. He said, and you're going to hear this theme all the time. The winter solstice is midwinter. Now we show that and share that a lot. And even when he talked about this festival called Yalda, I mean that's by Muslims. You understand? And in their calendar, their monthly cycles, they don't they don't care about the solstices and equinoxes when it comes to their months. So like how other lunar calendars will adjust and have a 13-month year to make it line up perfectly with the seasons. The Muslim calendar, Islam calendar doesn't, and nor do they care about it. But they'll keep Yulda. Remember the Yule thing here. They're going to keep that. And you see the theme of darkness and light and all of that. Now that seems to be a great thing when it comes to this theme of things, darkness and light. It seems to be the great theme, evil and light. Now, people are spiritual. And although the Most High doesn't, speak about the solstices that way, he does talk about darkness and light. But I'm not trying to make that connection at all. Facts, midwinter, winter solstice is midwinter. All nations of the earth, even if they don't keep the proper festivals like the Muslims, they used Iran there, they all celebrate it. It's all tied. And you'll notice, doesn't even matter. People who say they claim to call on the Most High Yah, Yahuwah, Yahweh, they're going to keep a calendar where they're going to have their festival of lights, their Hanukkah, where some of their people, not them, but the ones who are imposters, going to light up a 9-candlestick menorah. 9 candlestick. 9, not 7, 9. And all of these things. And these things are deep when you start to understand that the connections. And these guys will even let you know when they do these things, they're connecting and themselves to the equinoxes and the solstices. So that's all I want to let you know first.
That's
right.
One thing that stood out in that video, as Sean just alluded to, and then I just want to emphasize, is that he mentioned all nations and cultures, right, all had celebrations geared towards the winter solstice, all of them. And that goes up until this very day, and it goes way back into the past thousands of years ago. All the nations of the world had various different types of celebrations, all geared towards this winter solstice and the summer solstice and all these mid-season astronomical dates, and that they put their holy or their festivals or feasts upon these times, and they celebrated them and just called them different names.
That's right, Lion. That's right. I mean, if you look at this is Jah's holy seasons and months. This is how we do it in the Zion Assembly, and we've been doing it for years. Abib is equivalent to the beginning of February. It's when spring truly starts. So that would make March mid-spring, right, where they keep their spring equinox. We don't have no feasts. There would be the only feast. The only feast that might be kept there is the Passover in the second month. So if you miss the Passover of the first month in February, Abib, just like it is in the scripture, you're allowed to keep only the Passover, no other festival, in the second month. And so that will fall on the 15th day of the second month, which is equivalent to mid-spring. But outside of that, as again, looking at, the screen here, when we have the Feast of Weeks, Pentecost, when the Messiah was truly born. I mean, we know that the Messiah couldn't have been born around spring, and everybody talks about, the lambing season and the shepherds were out there, and all that is true. But I mean, there's one, to me, is almost like one big kind of like piece of evidence for those who already know the truth, but the Messiah is called the Lamb of Jah. So why wouldn't he be born during lambing season?
That's right.
When you start to look at astronomy and stuff like that, you'll see that this time of the winter solstice deals with goat business. I don't want to get into the Capricorn or the Sagittarius and all of that stuff, but I mean, just think about it. The Messiah was a lamb. He's going to be born during lambing season. Obviously was, and lambing season is the end of March through to the end of April in the natural environment that they are in, and that's when the Messiah was born as well. And this is why when we keep the Feast of Weeks, or the Pentecost, or also can call it the Feast of First Fruits, not the waving of the first fruits, that's the sheaf. These things are all when the Messiah was born, because he was born according to scriptural prophecy, and the festivals as well. The spring festivals represent his first coming week, and the autumn festivals represent his second coming in the future.
Hmm. That's right.
So you'll see that when it comes to, like, our May starts in summer. When it comes to the midsummer equinox, solstice, we don't have no feasts. When it comes to the mid-September, mid-autumn equinox, we don't have no feasts. When it comes to the mid-winter solstice, which we're in right now, we don't have no feasts. Right? Point being, again, it's just emphasizing that the heathens have their feasts around these times. And if you look at jazz things aren't geared by those things. Just for
Hmm.
example, when people have a new year and they want to keep a scriptural new year, they're going to use the spring equinox. And if they use a lunar cycle, they're going to use the first new moon near that spring equinox to dictate when they begin spring. So I'm just saying this is how the whole world is tied into it. And you can even go and look up the equinox that also it's tied to being a middle of spring event. Although the word mid-spring won't be in a dictionary nor mid-autumn, but you can find definitions of midwinter and midsummer very clearly. So I just want to kind of bring this up to people to kind of make you think. Look at that. The almanac that we are professing of keeping the holy festivals, you're not keeping them around these heathenistic times at all. Not even the Feast of Dedication or their Hanukkah that they're keeping. We keep it, but we do ours up at the
That's
end
right.
of October going into November. So there's a difference here. Just things are separate and holy. Don't be a part
Hmm.
of the nations and how they do things. And I'm sorry to say, but that's what everybody's caught up in. And it's nobody's fault. Don't make anybody feel like, oh, I don't have the spirit. I'm dumb. I can't see things. It's a great deception. And Jah's just, helping us, and we're helping Jah make sure this information gets out there in an accurate way so you can see it rather than just talking.
That's right. This is very, very valuable information to understand and to know about the seasons and Jah's holy feast days. None of Jah's holy feasts and times revolve around the winter solstice, the summer solstice,
Nope.
or the fall and spring equinoxes. None of them.
Nope.
Jah wanted his people to be different and separate from all the nations of the world, because all the nations of the world do exactly what you see them do.
That's
Jah's
right.
people are different. We
That's right.
keep our Sabbath days and holy days on different times of the year than the heathens keep their holidays on.
Mm-hmm.
Christianity has perverted Jah's holy time frames and counterfeited them and placed their holy times on these unholy times
That's right. That's
and
right.
called them Christmas and all these other things to deceive all the people in these false religions, thinking that they're worshiping the God of the Bible when they're actually worshiping Satan.
That's right. True talks, Lion. True talks. See, again, just a reminder, the equinoxes and solstices will always be the middle of Jah seasons, because Jah seasons don't begin when the heathens begin their seasons. We don't begin summer at the solstice, autumn at the equinox. I mean, when you begin summer at the solstice, 3 days later, the days are getting shorter. I mean, it makes no sense. But nonetheless, what you're seeing on the screen here, if you want to take a screenshot of it, is the true kind of monthly equivalence, what day of the week each month starts on. Just things are very accurate and perfect. So if I look at the 8th month, called Bull, it's equivalent to September. There's 30 days in it, and it will always begin on the 3rd day of the week, which would be a Tuesday. Always, no matter what year you go back in time to go in the future, Jah's almanac is perfectly fixed all the time. But if you use any type of other astronomical calendars, the first day of your year could be any time. It could be here, it can be there. It's triggered by a lunar cycle. Is it a dark moon? Is it the crescent? Is it the full moon? Is it conjunction and all kind of stuff that we don't even need to know about? But this is what they get you caught up into. Just things, although it may seem technical now, when you learn it, I know it seems just easier to remember than anything else of those paganistic calendars. So again, just knowing that these equinoxes and solstices, they are kind of dates that they look upon as well. Sometimes you can see with the spring equinox, it's the 20th, the 20th, the 20th, and then one time it's the 19th. When it's the summer solstice, it's the 21st of June or the 20th, 21st of June or the 20th. The autumn equinox will be either the 22nd or the 23rd of September, as you can see here. And then when it comes to the winter solstice, it could be the 22nd or the 21st. And this year it's the 21st. Going through, where are we? 20, 25. There it is right there. So you see, if you want, you can kind of like, get a chart like this one and just get a list of all these equinoxes and solstices. And I know how these fit onto Jah's almanac, and they always come around the middle of Jah's almanac, right? Of his seasons. And it's very straightforward. But let's move on. Remember, there's 4 different seasonal years, right? When we teach things, and we're not going to get into it a lot today, but I want to let you know that when it comes to, you have the scriptural seasons, you have the solar seasons, you have meteorological seasons, and astronomical seasons. We're all familiar with the astronomical seasons because that's the ones that mostly we hear about. That's dealing with the vernal equinox, the solstice, the autumn equinox, or the winter solstice. And again, you have your time frames. But then you have the meteorological seasons, which don't deal with these moments in time, but actually are stuck on a month. So meteorological spring begins March 1st, meteorological summer June 1st, and that's when their time periods begin. Now, a lot of people don't know about solar seasons, but solar seasons, maybe we should watch a quick video of it, but the solar seasons, spring begins early February, February 4th and 5th to be exact. Summer is May 4th and 5th. Autumn is August 4th and 5th, and winter is November 4th and 5th. And this coincides, the solar seasons of the world that we know of and found out coincide with Jah's scriptural seasons as well on his almanac. And this is a beautiful thing. You understand? Because a lot of people don't know about these solar seasons. And during the solar seasons, the equinoxes and solstices are the middle of the true scriptural seasons. So let me see if I can, I think we've got a short video on that. Let's just go to one right here. Okay. Yeah, sorry, brother. I'm going to put on a short video, the solar seasons. Again, pay attention to these things and notice the dates as well. We're going to talk about it.
Last time we checked out astronomical and meteorological seasons, but this time we will check out solar seasons. Solar seasons are actually based on insolation or solar radiation, where the solstices and equinoxes are viewed as the midpoints of the season. Solar seasons change about 3 to 4 weeks ahead of the meteorological seasons and about 6 to 7 weeks ahead of the astronomical seasons. And the best way to explain the seasons when it comes to solar is to look at a chart here involving the insolation at various latitudes in the northern hemisphere, starting off with the equator, 30 degrees north, 60 degrees north, and 90 degrees north. And we're mostly going to focus on the 30, 60, and 90 degree latitudes here when it comes to the increasing and decreasing amounts. So let's first start off here when it comes to spring, which consists of increasing insolation or solar radiation. And that's depicted here in the green for the months of February, March, and April. And you can already tell that those 3 areas, those 3 lines are actually beginning to increase. And it's with the equinox being at the midpoint of that solar spring. Now we move on into summer, where we see the months of maximum insolation or solar radiation, and that's depicted here in the red, and that happens throughout the months of May, June, and July. Now we start going in the opposite direction here as we start going into autumn here, and that actually begins in August, September, and October as we start seeing decreasing amounts of insolation or solar radiation. So you can already see how it's already hit its maximum in the summer, and now it's beginning to see that downward trend. And then lastly, in the blue there, we have winter, whereas the minimum insolation, and that actually happens in the months of November, December, but also in the months of January. And that is all when it comes to solar seasons.
Okay. I like that video, man. I could watch that video all the time, because you're learning something that many people don't talk about at all. And just think about it. Many people use the Enoch and the Zadok calendars, and they always say the sun is the big issue. It's the main thing. You do this by the sun and that by the sun. And, we know the sun is the greater light. So how come they don't use solar seasons? Why are they using astronomical seasons? Just think about it. Because people think when you say astronomical seasons, they in their mind say, oh, that's a solar calendar. No. It's called a lunisolar calendar. There's a blend of things there dealing with the stars, astronomy. But the solar seasons are, just like you see on your screen, dealing with solar radiation. Like, we know that February, according to the scriptures and land of Israel and solar seasons and the rainy and summer seasons and so many other things, begins in February. And that means that March, the spring equinox, would be the middle, even though that's when people begin their spring. But between February and May, that's when we see the greatest increase of sunlight. That's what the guy is talking about. Look at from here, from February, it goes up so high, right up until May here. This is May going all the way top. And then when we get to May, from May to autumn, we have the maximum amount of sunlight, where the solstice is the peak, the height of summer. So summer starts in May, and then it goes through to June. And once it gets to the solstice, that's the longest day of the year and the shortest night, or the longest, you could call it like the brightest day, the longest amount of solar radiation. And then for 3 days, the sun sets and rises at the same time period. And then after that, the days start to get shorter and shorter, going right down to August. And when you get to August, now you're going to have the greatest decrease of sunlight, where from here it starts to go greatly down all the way to November. So look at from here, it drops down greatly. The greatest decrease as the equinox area, and the greatest increase is the equinox area. And then we have the most minimum sunlight beginning November, going all the way through to the end of January, coming over here. So we have November, December, and because we're dealing with a Gregorian calendar, even though January should be right here, it's over here. So this again is one good type of understanding when you know things about the true seasons. Because who told you that summer starts at the summer solstice? They did, right? And they have been doing it for a long time. But believe it or not, there's no like scientific authority or government that said it. They just kind of brought it in and kept it going.
That's right. It's amazing how they don't keep this as common knowledge, and it's almost like it's hidden, because for many of us, we may not have heard of solar season before, yet it's a real thing. And once you know the truth about when Jah's true season begin, you can see why that they don't talk about it much, because they don't want people to really understand that the solstices and equinoxes are really pointing to the middle of the seasons and not the beginning.
That's right. Shalom, Judah Blaze. Shabbat shalom to you. Brother, again, I hear what you're saying, and that's what it's all about. Well said, because nobody don't know about these things, right? And again, the information is out there, but you have to dig for it. Let's move on. So you'd be surprised that the ancient, Irish and the Celts, and even up until today, they still keep the true scriptural seasons, what you'd call even solar seasons. They begin winter on the 1st of November, which makes December 21st the middle. It goes from November to the end of January. That's how we do it with Jah's Almanac. The only difference is we don't do it exactly November 1st to January 31st, because, well, we can do it that way, but the Gregorian calendar moves around. So the first of the 9th month, which is known as, what is it? Tebeth? No, that's the 10th month. Kislev, right?
Kislev, yes.
But November is Tebeth, right? Yes, November is Tebeth, the 10th month. So the first of Tebeth will be on the first day of the week. But some years, that'll be maybe November 1st. This year was November 8th. Last year was 9th. And it goes to as far as maybe, I think 9th and 10th is as far as it goes. And then it's going to go back down because their calendar moves around. So, like I said, this year it's November 8th. Next year it's November 7th. And it's going to go down. If it's a leap year after that, it'll go down to November, 3rd. And then about 2 times in the 28-year cycle, November 1st and Tebeth 1st will be the exact same. So again, looking at these charts, they're just giving you the dates, which are very, in a certain sense, accurate. St. Brigid's Day to April, the end of April, because end of April showers end and they bring May flowers. May Day, an ancient beginning of the first day of May, goes to the end of July, and then the 1st of August, they call it Lunasad. But again, these times here are the beginning of Ethanim, and it goes to the end of October, Halloween. And of course, that's October 31st. And as you know, Halloween deals a lot with death and darkness and all of that. And November is the beginning of that dark period of winter. And so October really is an end of harvest, beginning of winter festival, but they just add in all of their double business to it.
Mm-hmm.
So again, just letting you know, people are still keeping up with these things. The Chinese also as well, their Chinese calendar. So again, just looking at it, this is February. The equinoxes and solstices are the middle. I mean, it looks perfect too, even when you just look at it on a chart form, right? It's the middle. So you can go ahead and read this, brother.
All right. Astronomical seasons are based on the position of the Earth in relation to the sun. The Earth's imaginary trip around the sun forms the basis for the astronomical calendar, in which seasons are defined by 2 solstices, winter and summer, and 2 equinoxes, spring and fall.
All right. So, I mean, you know about these things. We're showing you. But remember, when you look at this chart, they say the spring equinox is the beginning, but we're saying it's the middle. So, I mean, spring would be beginning over here, February, March. Then you got, going all the way around. The winter solstice is the middle. Autumn equinox is the middle. Summer solstice is the middle. But in the world, it's the beginning of things. And this is the, kind of fight we have. And nobody here is responsible today for these tricks because they've been put in a long time ago. And that's the devil's work, right? He does that thing.
And you can see the falsehood, just going back there, when it says astronomical seasons are based on the position of the Earth in relation to the sun. It's really the sun's position in relation to the Earth, because the sun moves and the Earth is stationary and fixed and doesn't move.
That's right. One of the main things about this, and I will make sure it's a part of a very focused lesson, but the whole globe spinning on the axis, revolving around the sun at 365. We've proven that those numbers that they're using are not for the solar system, are not numbers of observation, but they're just mathematical working out of numbers, right? We did that very perfectly with the 10,227 days. If you go back to last week's lesson, very in-depth lesson on numbers, and you'll start exactly as Brother Javed is saying. Really, the Earth doesn't do no moving at all, no day making or anything. He said that the sun, moon, and stars be for signs, seasons, days, and years. So if the Earth is some spinning, that means now the Earth is responsible for time and making a day and going around the sun. No, he said the sun, moon, and stars do their thing. So that's the truth.
That's right.
Let's go to another video, a short one. Take it in, listen again to listen for midwinter and look around for the paganism.
The winter solstice, also known as midwinter, marks when the Earth's poles tilt furthest from the sun. This results in the shortest day and longest night of the year. The winter solstice occurs once in each hemisphere. Depending on the hemisphere, it takes place in December or June and is seen as the middle or beginning of winter. Historically, the solstice has been an important time. Cultures have held festivals and rituals acknowledging the symbolic death and rebirth of the sun as daylight begins to grow longer. Monuments like Stonehenge and Newgrange align with the sunrise or sunset of the winter solstice, demonstrating the significance of this event in ancient cultures. In ancient Rome, the winter solstice was celebrated on December 25th. This date was later adopted by the Church to mark the birth of Christ. In cultures such as Germanic and East Asian, the winter solstice was also an important holiday, and it is still celebrated with various traditions and festivities.
Many Christmas traditions have their roots in ancient pagan midwinter festivals like Yule and Saturnalia. The Romans honored Saturn with feasts, gift-giving, and decorating homes with greenery during Saturnalia. In Norse Yule, Odin would fly through the sky, leaving gifts for children who left straw-filled boots outside. Celtic Druids revered evergreens like mistletoe and holly, symbols of protection and renewal during midwinter. The Yule log, representing the sun's return, was kept ablaze for 12 days of celebrations. Stockings by the fire recall Norse traditions, where boots filled with straw awaited Odin's blessings. Gatherings, storytelling, and feasting were key midwinter traditions adopted into modern Christmas celebrations. In the 4th century, Emperor Constantine merged Christmas with midwinter to replace pagan festivals. Santa Claus echoes Odin, who delivered blessings during Yule, while evergreen wreaths symbolize life in the darkest days. Modern Christmas blends ancient customs, celebrating family, warmth.
All right. Now, especially that last part, right? Let me emphasize it. Constantine brought in Christmas to replace the midwinter festival, right? Saturnalia. So it's during this time there that they're doing a calendar switch too, because like I said, you can't tell nobody that tomorrow is the beginning of a winter. Maybe some people in Ireland and maybe the Chinese, they know better, because the Chinese is a very ancient culture and they still keep up with the true seasons. That's why their New Year is always in February. A lot of people don't take notice of that, but I notice it, even though they deal with a lunar calendar. And I mean, if I was to deal with the lunar calendar, even though I know lunar has nothing to do with Jaws months, you would say that the Chinese people have it more accurate than anybody else out here, especially the people who consider themselves the people of the book. Whether you're the real people of the book or the fakers, it doesn't matter. You're all saying the same equinox thing and still keeping up a Hanukkah and lighting up things during these time of lights when all the world is having a festival of lights during the darkest night of the year. Wow.
True.
Even when it comes down to people who follow the Enoch calendar, this is from the website of the Enoch calendar. They say seed time is the autumn equinox, harvest is the vernal equinox, winter's the solstice, summer's the solstice. You don't get that from the Holy Bible, but what they're doing is they're placing these modern satanic astronomical seasons and trying to place them on the Bible. And this is where we come and just box that off. Get it out of here. Don't put it on top of the Bible. Keep it in the pagan area that it should be in. Don't bring it over to the scriptural almanac. And that's how we feel. You understand? And
That's right.
We say this with zeal. I mean, great definitions, looking at this here. The middle of summer, the period of the summer solstice. Notice it calls the middle of summer solstice, right? This middle of summer, the period of the summer solstice. It means midsummer. They have Midsummer's Day. That was June 24th, because it takes 3 days from the solstice for the sun to make a move again. But there's one thing I wanted to let you know too, is that the Roman Catholics and all of that who do their calendars, they know about Jah's Almanac because they must have it in their Vatican. But they have the Feast of Nativity, or the birth of John the Baptist, that occurs at Midsummer's Day, the 24th, which again deals with the summer solstice, because the summer solstice comes at the 21st. For 3 days, it sets and rises at the same place. People say it stands still, it doesn't move. That's not what it means, it stands still. This means it rises and sets at the same time. And then after that third day, on the 24th, it begins to decline in a very observational way. But here's the trick. They have John the Baptist. And as you know, John the Baptist, when you read scriptures, is 6 months older than the Messiah. And so they place John the Baptist's birth at that summer solstice. Even though it's saying the 24th, it's still the summer solstice. That's the trigger. And guess what happens 6 months later? Your winter solstice. And who they say is born at the winter solstice?
Jesus Christ.
The fake Jesus.
Yeah.
So I'm just telling you that these guys know. You might hear a couple of videos talk about this too, but they know what's going on. They hide midsummer and they call it St. John's Day. Again, all these things you check out yourself, and then you'll see that what we're talking is true, right? But here, going back to this, it says astronomically midsummer falls on June 21st. You see that? June 21st. But the event traditionally was reckoned to Northern Europe the night of June 23rd. Look at this, though, what it says. With summer beginning at the start of what? May. Right? So we're seeing here that Midsummer Night was an occasion of superstitious practices and wild festivities. That's right. You're going to hear a lot about that. Midwinter, the middle or depth of winter. Midwinter, also midday winter. Midwinter, the middle of winter. Traditionally, the period around the winter solstice. You understand? December 21st. Winter being reckoned from the 1st of what? November. Big, great definitions for you to look into. But if you don't care, if it doesn't mean anything, whatever, that's fine. But Jah cares. And if Jah cares, we care too. Otherwise, we wouldn't have the almanac coming out. And the only reason for the importance of Jah's almanac, his scriptural calendar, is so that you can meet at the proper times at the festivals. Because, some people say, I get it, because if you don't know the calendar, do the best you can. But once you start seeing the thing coming out that is true, those who want to kind of fight it for no good reason without investigation might be fighting something that is, a good ordained thing for us to keep. Because if you keep the 7-day Sabbath not on the right time, you're ignoring the Sabbath, or you're be polluting it. And the same thing goes for the festivals. It doesn't matter. And keeping the scriptural festivals on the equinox solstice calendar that the heathens do too, I don't think is good, because John never gave us and told us to do that. As a matter of fact, he kind of speaks a lot against the sun, moon, and stars, of which these heathens tend to be using quite a bit. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. And just before you go on, I would urge all our listeners to look up these definitions for yourself in any reputable dictionary, and see it for yourself, and know that we're not making this stuff up here. And when you see it with your own eyes, let that enlighten you, and mark and underline these things, because these things are not very well known, but these definitions have always been there.
That's right. And here's just something very simple. This is the normal calendar with the spring equinox, right? And the spring equinox is the middle. So that means when you count like 45 days back, because the season has 90 days or 91 days, half of 90 is 45, or 46 if it's 91. You count back 45 days from the spring equinox, brings you to February 1st. You count 45 days ahead of it, it brings you to the end of April. And it's the same thing with, all of the festivals. Here's the solstice. It's the middle. So May is when true summer begins. The 21st of June is the middle. And then it goes through all of these other times, where July 31st is the end. And August is, again, the starting, so on and so forth. September equinox is the middle. Same thing. December solstice, if you count 45 days backwards, it comes to November 1st. So, I'm just using these things as an example so you can see. But when you see it kind of properly on Jah's almanac, now what I've done with this calendar, so I've just taken basically, like the months, because you have January, February, and January is the last month of Jah. You're not the beginning. So I put February here as the beginning, February, March, April, and I put January down here. Again, when you look at it this way, spring begins in February. There, in the middle is your equinox. In the middle of summer, there's your solstice, midsummer. You have your mid-autumn, and then you have your midwinter. Again, it's in the middle month of the 3 seasons, just so you can see. And again, this is true, and this is why it gets carried over into, what we show. Okay, now let's go to another a video by let's see what we got here. All right, here we go.
Did you know that people around the world celebrated the winter solstice long before Christmas? The winter solstice, falling in December in the northern hemisphere and June in the southern hemisphere, is the shortest day and the longest night of the year. The winter solstice, also referred to as midwinter, is associated with the idea of rebirth of both the sun and the new year. And after the shortest day, the days get a bit longer and a bit brighter. The movement of the sun and the skies in general have been monitored by humanity for a long, long time, all around the world, especially since tracking the sun and the seasons was imperative for crop growth and agriculture. The solstice usually falls on the 21st or 22nd of December, and around this time, many different cultures throughout history celebrated midwinter and the rebirth of the sun. We also have many surviving architectural wonders from around the globe that seem to have been constructed with the winter solstice in mind. We're not entirely sure for just how long humans have recognized the winter solstice as a turning point, but we know it was important for heralding in the new sun or new sun god for the next year. The concept of rebirth inspired the festive practice of role reversal, best seen in the festivities of Saturnalia in Rome, where the role of slave and master would reverse, and earlier in Mesopotamian civilizations. The solstice observances celebrated around the globe and through history all centered around similar themes, including light conquering darkness, renewal, new life, and rebirth, when after the shortest day and longest night of the year, the darkness would give way to the light of longer days and shorter nights. 5,000 years ago, the concept of the 12 days of Christmas was already celebrated in ancient Egypt. At Karnak on the winter solstice, the temple to the sun god was lit up as the sun rose between two of its pillars. The ancient Egyptians celebrated the god Horus during the winter solstice as a deity with associations with the sun, moon, and sky, and their festival lasted for 12 days, which reflected the 12 divisions of their sun calendar. The ancient Egyptians were keen astronomers. They observed the skies and often built monuments aligned with the sun or the stars, including the pyramids. In ancient Mesopotamia, another 12-day festival was celebrated known as the Zagmuk, or the beginning of the year. This festival reenacted the story of the battle between Marduk, representing order, and Tiamat, representing chaos, as told in the Babylonian creation myth, the Enuma Elish. In the end, Marduk defeated Tiamat and established order, which humans then helped to maintain, in part through religious festivals such as Zagmuk. Later in Rome, you see the festival of Saturnalia, which honoured the agricultural god Saturn. Saturnalia activities included eating, drinking, games, partying, and merrymaking. The people's everyday lives came to a halt with businesses closing, everyone given a holiday, and informal, colourful clothing being worn instead of the usual formal toga. The cult statue of Saturn had his ankles tied by woolen bonds throughout the year, but these were loosened during the Saturnalia. This act of loosening the ties of Saturn caused the deity to become associated with liberation, which was a prominent aspect of the Saturnalia. The social conventions and tight social structure of ancient Rome were not only relaxed, but partially reversed during this time of revelry. Although the slaves still had to make the feasts, they got to eat with their masters and be served by them. Candles were a popular gift since Saturnalia was associated with the winter solstice and was a festival of light associated with the birth of the sun god Sol Invictus on the 23rd of December. Another culture who practiced the reversal of roles during the winter solstice was the Babylonians during their renewal festival, which was adopted later by Persians. Like in ancient Rome, the slaves and the masters switched roles, and as the year came to an end, the usual rules of living were relaxed. The concept of the 12-day winter solstice festival seen in Egypt and Mesopotamia was also celebrated by the Germanic and Scandinavian people in the holiday known as Yule. Large animals would often be slaughtered during this time, as they would have been difficult to keep fed and healthy during the winter months, and the meat was shared amongst neighbours. The word Yuletide, now used as a synonym for Christmas, comes from the Norse pagan winter festival of Yule, with the word tide meaning a period of time. Yuletide has been celebrated for centuries, and many modern Christmas traditions can be traced back to the Yuletide celebrations of Northern Europe. Some of these include decorating trees, Christmas wreaths, mistletoe, exchanging gifts, and perhaps even the figure of Santa Claus. Traditions celebrating light, renewal, and salvation, now associated by many with Christmas, were already observed long before the Christian era.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
More information, right, coming out now. I told you to pay attention to these numbers. 12 and 8 is used exclusively, even sometimes 9. And when you notice that when I talk about Egypt and all the other ones, this 12 days comes in. And yes, there would be normally 12 days in a calendar year. But I want to show you how this 12 works when it comes down to their false calendars, because really it's all about a count. They're trying to say it's this and that for that God and this God. All right, let's take a look. The solstice occurs, this is last year, December 2024, on the 21st. That's day 1. Let's do the count. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. So this is the 31st is 11, and this is 12, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we see 1 to 12 gives you from the solstice to the beginning of their paganistic year, right? That's what you call the 12 days of Christmas, my blah, 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 right? All of that stuff, the 12 days of Christmas, it's all here. They're keeping some pagan count to keep the solstice. These guys know when the seasons are. They keep saying it's a midwinter festival, but today it's called, a beginning of winter festival. But I need you to kind of see the depths, because if you don't really see these other depths of Christmas, you're just going to think it's all about fake Santa Claus. But they even have their 8 days. But their 8 days, when they're dealing with their 8 days starts from the 25th. And so you'll see that these 8 days are like the Feast of Dedication, what we call Hanukkah, the Feast of Tabernacles. The 25th is the first day. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Again, goes to January 8th. So some of them will do a 8-day festival from the 25th, or they'll do the 12-day festival from the 21st. You understand? I just put the 1 and 8 and 12 over here because this January 1st is really the same thing. It's just on 2 calendars, but I wanted you to see the connection here, right?
Yes.
So 31st 7 would be. You see what I'm saying, family? Brother John, did you see that?
Yeah, man. It's they're loud and clear. Once you see it in table format on the calendar, you just count the number of days and like, oh, this is what they're talking about when they talk about their 12 days of Christmas and their 8 days. It's all geared towards the winter solstice.
That's right. Anne-Marie, blessed to you too, sister. First Enoch. So when the feast of dedication, Passover, as well as what day the Sabbath fall on. So when? Okay, well, those are I just caught it say Festival of Lights, which is one of the names they gave to Hanukkah. Oh yeah, it is. I'm glad you're listening. Good listening. And she talked about oil, which is what they attribute the Hanukkah to, the oil lasting 8 days. Man. This is what I'm good looking into things, right? Because when you look into things, you start to see these things, it's going to add up. Like, great. They don't do things for nothing. Even though we know that the real festival of dedication is 8 days long, and it goes from the 25th to the 1st of the 10th month, you know, they're doing something here around this festival. Let's continue. So again, you know, what it is that the heathens love the sun, moon, and stars, right? And the sun, moon, and stars were made. You notice that the sun, moon, and stars were created in the middle of the week? You notice that?
Yeah, that's right. Day 4.
And when do they do when is their astronomical equinoxes and solstices? In the middle of Jah seasons too. You see, a lot of people think that the calendar begins from day 4 and they'll count. People who deal with the Enoch calendar, the Zadok calendar, the priestly calendar, all of this and that. They're going to start saying, oh, this is the beginning of a bib, and we count from here, and so on and so forth. Astronomical. That's not how Jah counts. Jah counts from number 1 to number 7. And that's why the 7-day Sabbath and the number 7 is key to understanding the true almanac. And if you haven't seen last week's lesson, it's all about sevens. Come with us with any other type of number to work out months and all that kind of stuff, and lunar cycles and everything else. It's folly. The first month has to have 28 days. It can't have 30 days, and the calendar can't be 30, 30, 31, like the Book of Enoch, you know, professes and all of these things, which the Book of Enoch is, although they say 30, 30, 31, it's still a lunar kind of thing that they're dealing with. They're just trying to make it different. But nonetheless, you know, let me continue go on. Remember, John never commanded us to do anything with the sun, moon, or stars.
That's right. Deuteronomy 17, verse 2. If there be found among you within any of thy gates, which Jah thy El giveth thee, man or woman, that hath wrought wickedness in the sight of Jah thy El, in transgressing his covenant, and hath gone and served other gods, and worshipped them, either the sun, or the moon, or any of the host of heaven which I have not commanded, and it be told thee, and thou hast heard of it, and inquired diligently, and behold, it be true, and the thing certain, that such an abomination is wrought in Israel, then shalt thou bring forth that man or that woman which have committed that wicked thing unto thy gates, even that man or that woman, and shall stone them with stones till they die.
This is what we got to ask ourselves. Hey, where did Jah command us to deal with the moon, set the moon, sun, or stars for holy days? I'm not talking about signs, season, days, and years. Signs, season, days, and years. It doesn't say nothing about months. It doesn't say nothing about Sabbath. It doesn't say nothing about feast days. So please don't come to me with all of that stuff. Jah says he never commanded anybody to do anything according to the lunar cycle, especially.
That's right.
Every heathenistic, paganistic, devil-worshipping, Baal-worshipping nation out there back in the days had a festival at the spring equinox, at the full moon, and then people want to say, oh, that's when we keep Passover too, at the full moon near the spring. Get out of here with that stuff. Jah stuff isn't deal with it. He didn't command that stuff. Nowhere in his law does he say, when the moon is a sliver, when the moon is dark, when the moon is at its full. No, don't come with that.
That's right.
Go look for new moon in the scripture. New moon means Kodesh, Kadash, renewal. It shouldn't even be new moon. It's just the beginning of months, a new month. But all of this thing there, just says if anybody finds out, if they're worshiping the sun, moon, and stars, and let me help you out here. If you don't know how they worship the sun, moon, and stars, you have special days on special cycles of the sun, moon, and stars. Oh, it's the equinox. Let's have our thing. It's the solstice. Let's have our thing. It's the beginning of a lunar cycle. Let's have our thing. It's the end of the lunar cycle. Let's have our thing. It's the longest day of the year. It doesn't matter. That's how you worship. You having special days geared for the sun, moon, and stars, which John never commanded. So nobody can no more talk. You can talk about it and do whatever you want, but when you start learning the Enoch, Jubilee, Zadok, Jewish calendar, any calendar that begins with the spring equinox is linked or has lunar cycles in it to deal with holy days is a bunch of evil stuff. That's very
right.
plain and simple. You know, let's see another verse, Brother Javid.
Deuteronomy 4, verse 19. Unless thou lift up thine eyes unto heaven, and when thou seest the sun, and the moon, and the stars, even all the hosts of heaven, shouldest be driven to worship them, and serve them, which Jah thy El had divided unto all nations under the whole heaven.
That's right. Who did he divide the sun, moon, and stars to?
All nations.
What did Jah say about his people, though? Are they supposed to be like the other nations?
No. Exactly.
You got to look at these things. Anybody professing that the Most High's almanac has equinoxes and lunar cycles in it is wrong when it comes to the holy days. The lunar cycle is great for agriculture, for farming and gardening. You could use it. I can use it. Doesn't matter where you are. You can use it for those things. But don't come with no, hey, it's the full moon of any time. Let's have a festival to the Most High. That's what the heathens do. You understand?
That's right. That's right. And these practices that we're reading now is very clear. It's an abomination to Jah, and the people who do these things are supposed to be put to death.
Mm-hmm.
And the devil has deceived the whole world into getting people to believe that they're keeping holy days geared to around these solstices and equinoxes, which is the sun, moon, and star worship, and they're leading people into the lake of fire by doing so. It's an abomination to Jah. And all those people who want to use false calendars that use the equinoxes and solstices as the beginning of their seasons are false, and they need to be repented of and corrected.
That's right. That's right. I like how Brother Corey here says, Book of Maccabees doesn't say anything about Festival of Lights or oil lasting for 8 days. That's a man-made doctrine. You're exactly right, brother.
That's right.
We keep the feast of good observation. We keep the feast of dedication. We kept it not during this time, like I said, back in when it was supposed to be kept outside of these times, and we don't do none of that oil. But what you are saying is right. These are man-made traditions, and anything that's man-made tradition, the Most High doesn't like those things. Let's continue. Let's look at another video here. I like this guy's video too. This is a Scot. Let's see what you got. Go ahead.
Christmas today obviously has its roots in Christianity, but how did the ancient pagan Celts celebrate this time of year? And the ancient Celts, along with most, if not all other ancient cultures around the world, did celebrate around this time of year. A winter solstice occurs when either of the Earth's poles reaches its maximum tilt away from the sun. This happens twice yearly, one in the northern hemisphere and one in the southern hemisphere. For that hemisphere, the winter solstice is the day with the shortest period of daylight and longest night of the year, where the sun is at its lowest daily maximum elevation in the sky. When the winter solstice happens in the northern hemisphere, the North Pole is tilted about 23.4 degrees away from the sun. It usually happens on the 21st or 22nd of December in the northern hemisphere, but in the southern hemisphere it happens in the summer, on the 20th or 21st of June. This year's winter solstice takes place at 3:27 AM on the 22nd of December UK time. The word solstice itself is actually quite interesting. It is Latin in origin, and it's taken from the idea that the sun appears to stand still in the sky. In ancient Rome, this was described as solstitium, a combination of the word sol, meaning the sun, and sistere, meaning stand still. In ancient cultures, there must have been a real sense of worry and not knowing if the sun would rise again, given the lack of scientific knowledge compared to today, giving rise to lots of legends and myths about the rise of the sun. It is interesting to wonder, however, how sophisticated our knowledge of the movement of the stars were. After all, ancient cultures would look up around the fire, they would look up at the stars, and there wouldn't have been obviously light pollution like we have today, and sit and tell stories and follow the movement of the stars across the sky. So it is interesting how knowledgeable they would have actually been in certain ancient cultures about the movement of the stars and the seasons and the cycles of things. Ancient Celtic pagans would have massive celebrations around the winter solstice, not only to mark the dark part of the year and try and bring a little light to the dark part of the year, but also as an offering to the gods to ensure that the sun would rise again in the new year. On the solstice, Celtic priests would cut the mistletoe that grew on the oak tree and give it as a blessing. Oaks were seen as sacred, and the winter fruit of the mistletoe was a symbol of life in the dark winter months. Druidic priests also maintained the tradition of the Yule log. Ancient Celtic people believed that the sun stood still for 12 days in the middle of winter, and during this time a log was lit, using the remains of the previous year's fire. It was believed it would conquer the darkness, banish evil spirits, and bring luck for the coming year.
Yeah,
Very
man.
good information.
Very good information, lad. I'm telling you, it's a strong Scottish accent. But hey, this is what's going on. You know, they know this is the middle of winter. I can't emphasize that enough. You're seeing all of this information. Sorry, I apologize for being sorry, but can someone put the answers to the chat because I didn't hear any dates? And so when it comes to the date, we're not giving the dates of everything right now. First Enoch. We got calendars. I'll talk about show calendars. I'll put something maybe at the end of this lesson, but people wouldn't normally know the dates out there except a few people who have the almanac and the calendar. So, I mean, I know you're not trying to be distracted, but I got to stay focused. If we want the dates, we got to go into that. So if you hang on a little bit, I'll show a little bit more information of the calendar. You'll be able to know when the dates are coming up shortly, and even to be able to get yourself a calendar. All right.
Mm-hmm.
So here's the point there, though. Again, midwinter, knowing what's going on, a lot of, the whole world following these things. And I want you to take notice, I just got this off internet today. For whatever you choose to celebrate, blessings to one and all this holiday season. And so you see what's going on here, right? The equinoxes and solstices are helping to unite all of these paganistic religions. Yeah. All of these paganistic religions and all who follow a calendar that come under here. If your calendar deals with equinox calendars and then you want to keep Passover, Pesach, and all of those things, and you're going to keep them and you're going to use their time frames, well, big problems. Now, let's get to something else here. I want you to see and hear a few things. Brother Joshua, go ahead.
Several religions and traditions celebrate around the winter solstice, marking the shortest day and longest night as a time for light's return, renewal, and hope, including Zoroastrianism, pagan or Wiccan, Hinduism, Sikhism, Jainism, Judaism, Kwanzaa, and Christianity, which they keep Christmas linked to the solstice timing. These festivals often involve lights, candles, feasts, and gatherings to welcome the growing daylight.
Just look at the themes even. All right? Look at the themes and like how Brother Corey was putting in the room, about them doing the oil lasting long and everything else and lighting up a 9 candlestick menorah. I don't even know why they come with the 9, unless they're dealing with a certain paganism understanding of the count, because it could be 8 or 9 days to the so-called god of Janus worship. But I mean, Kwanzaa, they have candles, the menorah candles. You light up the tree, the Christmas tree, and all of that, because all of these things are symbol of worshiping the astrons, the stars, the sun, moon, and stars. That's why there's lights. They're symbolic of the sun, moon, and stars of ancient pagan Baal worship. You understand?
That's right.
Again, when you want to deal with certain festivals and you're going to go look at the sun, moon, and stars and talk about the clock in the sky and nobody can change that and the Maserat, this and that. get out of here with that stuff. I look in the Holy Scriptures for the truths and for understanding, and we use His wisdom and the scriptural principles of 7 to deal with things, not no principles of the heavens. I know how to use the sun, moon, and stars. We all know how to use them in the proper way, but they will never be used by us for holy days. Never look at the moon cycle for a holy day. And if one even happens to fall on it, so be it, because those things move around a lot. But we don't do that. We look into Jah's word. We keep the days properly. We number days. We count our days. The weekly cycle is the standard for how you want to know a year is. You count 52 weeks and you'll know when your year is complete, and you stick to that. And then however the sun, moon, and stars operate within your count, it operates, because the sun, moon, and stars were made in the middle of Jah's week. They weren't made in the beginning, they weren't made in the end, and they weren't made for us to have holy days upon. So I hope you hear that, because shame on this world that's going on. Again, I don't blame the world, because that's what you're inheriting. You're hearing some truths you're not going to hear. And if anybody wants to gainsay and talk against it, feel no way. Usually what I hear people say is, well, they're doing this in February, forget that. But I mean against it. Get some calendar records, get your Holy Bible and everything else, and prove. And I know you can't, but you still, we welcome it, because we've already gone through these things, 30 years and counting, going through these things, examining, comparing, and making sure, and of course, praying to the Most High, and trying to follow His ways and keep our garments clean. And then if we do dirty up our garments, we always ask for forgiveness and don't do it again. So you're starting to see what's going on here. All this, what's going on with the equinoxes and the lights and the Hanukkah, and people are, and our Israelite brothers or sisters are going to be keeping the Feast of Dedication around these times. IUIC, I think, has already done it already. GOCC is coming up on the scene. All the other acronym mandem are around doing the same thing. There's a few other ones, even in our city, Toronto, keeping up stuff. Are they keeping it up today? Let me see. Yeah, keeping it up last night, New Month and Feast of Dedication things. But, what can we say? But don't, think that we're wrong just because everybody's following the crowd. Think about it. Everybody's doing a festival. And then when we don't do it and we're keeping it at the proper times when nobody else is keeping things, you want to say that's weird and wrong and everything. Well, the truth is weird, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
All right. You want to see the connection of these guys knowing what's going on? Little small snippets, Corey, you said some wise things about things. Now take a look at how these guys, and remember, everybody's keeping up with this kind of calendar in a certain way. They might have an exact lunar cycle, but they're going to start at the same time. Boom.
Did you know that Adam, the first human being, according to the Talmud in tractate Avodah Zarah 8a, celebrated the winter solstice? After Adam was created, he saw the days shorten and was distressed. Upon the turning of the solstice, he noticed the days getting longer, and he celebrated with an 8-day feast. Shalom friends, welcome to A Small Sanctuary, where we look at Jewish life lived with purpose, beauty, and meaning. And I'm really excited for this episode because it will be all about Hanukkah. And not just the practical aspects about Hanukkah, we will get to those in future videos, but more about how we see Hanukkah in our world today, how we balance it with the so-called December dilemma in this part of the world, and how we can make sense of a Hanukkah that is meaningful and celebrated very much on our own terms, while also being in harmony with the traditions around us who also celebrate their solstice festivals.
Whoa, while we say tradition with them to keep their solstice festivals.
Wow.
Like I just make people talk sometime, Brother Javed.
Wow. I mean, no mention of the Torah, but they put in the Talmud though.
Yeah. And in their Talmud, I've heard it a couple of times. Adam kept, observed the solstice because it was getting dark and he wanted this. And they're going to bring that stuff in here. You understand? And they mix, they're mixing up things, This is what the Most High has to say about, the sun, moon, and stars again, that people seem to love and worship.
Jeremiah chapter 8, verse 1. At that time, saith Jah, they shall bring out the bones of the kings of Judah, and the bones of his princes, and the bones of the priests, and the bones of the prophets, and the bones of the inhabitants of Jerusalem out of their graves. And they shall spread them before the sun, and the moon, and all the hosts of heaven, whom they have loved, and whom they have served, and after whom they have walked, and whom they have sought, and whom they have worshipped. They shall not be gathered nor buried. They shall be for dung upon the face of the earth.
You see that?
Wow.
There's a lot of warnings, condemnations about Baal and Ashtaroth worship, and everybody knows about Baal. But the thing is, people forget about Baal. It's dealing with astronomical calendars. Baal was like the sun worship thing. Ashtaroth was like the moon worship thing, called the Queen of Heaven. Astarte, Esther, Luna, Mona, even where you get the word moon from, Mona, and all of this and that. Diana, Wonder Woman, and all of these things. And it says that, you know, I want you to see what it's saying. It's saying that the bones of these kings, the bones of princes, priests, prophets, these are the leaders of Israel. Not even Israel, Judah even, we're talking. Judah's the head of Israel. Look at that. They worship the sun and host. Why? They love them. They serve. They walk after it. It says whom they have sought, whom they have worshipped, served, loved. They love the sun, moon, and stars. There's people who love the Maserat. Oh yeah, they keep telling me about it all the time. Oh, the constellation, and you don't know the secret of the Maserat and the hidden knowledge and all kind of joke things that's going on around here. People love the lunar cycle. They love it. They love the full moon Passover. They love their full moon tabernacles. They love these things. So they're going to do it. They love the equinox thing. They don't know that the worship is not going to the Most High and that the devil is robbing them, just like how it was with the Israelites when they go worship other nations and join with the Midianites and follow their gods. It's always been the same thing. Israel was messing up his Sabbaths, keeping festivals that weren't supposed to be kept with the other nations and abandoning his stuff. They're dung. All that stuff is dung. I have no problem talking about these things. Dung. The people who are in it, I want you to come out. I want to make those calendars and that stuff look so bad that you have to say, man, wiping yourself off. It's like, I don't know how long I'm going to stay in this muck, but maybe I can find a friend. We don't need no friends to do anything. Do your own studying. Jah is your friend. His son is your friend. Study and then come out of Babylon and their Babylon things. And don't be a part of them. Be separate. There's nothing wrong with being separate. As a matter of fact, I think being separate sometimes is the best for you in order for you to get yourself really tuned with the Most High instead of trying to do it with a group. And I like groups. I think it's good. But if you have a group of people who are not good believers, I'd rather take 3-4 people who are solid. That's the people you want to be around instead of a crowd of, it's like having a crowd of 200 men. And then I got a pack of 50 hard soldiers, and we're going to go to war. You're going to have your 200 just men, not so much trained or anything in things. But then you have 50 guys who are trained. You don't know who's going to win that war still. I don't care if you're 200. Those guys are taking out. This is what we need. We need, we all need to kind of get buckled down and stop this being laissez-faire. Hey, we got the truth and we know the truth and it's been so long. There's so many things I think that we teach that is like it would be new for people because we've been in the folly so long, and the almanac is one of them. Come out of it, right? Don't worship them stuff there.
That's right. Josh says, "Love not the world, neither the things in it." These are worldly things, right? And even up until today, these traditions that these people unknowingly keep towards Satan, they love these traditions. That's why it's hard for them to stop. They love putting up the Christmas tree. They love gathering together and having these feasts. They love doing these things, not even knowing the origin of them. And when you try and point it out to them, it's like it's hard for them to let go because they love these things so much.
That's right. They've always loved their brother, as you can see on the screen. Sun, moon, and star worship. Doesn't matter where it goes. They love it. Doesn't matter what name it comes in. Now it's trying to come in the name of the God of Israel, and that's the calendar. Get out of here with that. El of Israel, don't deal with those folly. That's the problem. It's Baal they're worshiping, but they're going to call upon the Father's name and the Son's name in Palo, Proto, or whatever it is. Meanwhile, it's not the true thing. And that's all going. This is how this world is. And then the little small people are going to look like they don't know what they're talking about, but greater is us than they that are in the world. And that's how I see these things. You're being deceived. Right. Great deceptions, all of these things from Babylon to Egypt, right now to Roman Catholicism, up until now. You see, look at the astral seasons. Nisan is a pagan god. That's when they're going to be marching in with their Passover. When's the other thing? Tammuz, so summer solstice. Tammuz is a pagan god. You understand? and they won't have a festival that month, but that's when they begin their summer, and they're honoring that. Tisri, again, not even in the Bible, autumn equinox, falsehood. Right? Tibet is good, but this is all false. The astral months, Nisan, Abib being equivalent to March and April, doesn't work like that on just things. And as you know, we teach, everybody knows, even the Jew guys, tell yourself, the calendar that is today called the Hebrew calendar that is used by the Jewish people is the ancient Babylonian calendar. Same name, same thing, same time frame, same exact 30 months, every 3 years, 19-year cycle, Metonic cycle, all of that stuff. It's the same thing. But people are still going to say, well, that's the scriptural calendar. And let me tell you something. Babylon, if there is like an enemy in scriptures, always through the scriptures of Zion and Jah's truth, it's Babylon. From Nimrod to Nebuchadnezzar to the future. Come out of Babylon, my people.
That's right.
Come out of this equinox and all that stuff calendar and take it easy and study and learn the true things. And we have all the information that you need to study and look at, whether it's on our channel, involved in our books, involved in the actual calendars that you can get as well. And may Jah make this movement grow according to his will and at his pace.
That's right. Well said.
Here's another Hanukkah, couple minutes. Boy, listen to this talk here.
What ancient winter solstice themes appear in Hanukkah? Imagine a time long ago when people looked to the shortest day of the year and wondered when the light would return. That moment is what Hanukkah celebrates in a way that connects with ancient winter traditions. Hanukkah is rooted in the Jewish victory over the Greeks and the rededication of the temple, but its timing and customs also reflected natural seasonal themes. The holiday usually falls around the 25th of Kislev in the Jewish lunar calendar, which often lines up with the period of the year when daylight is at its least. This makes Hanukkah a festival of light during the darkest days. The lighting of the candles each night symbolizes the increasing light, mirroring the days getting longer after the winter solstice. This practice likely developed after the original events of Hanukkah, influenced by broader cultural customs of lighting fires or candles to mark the rebirth of the sun. The 8 days of Hanukkah echo the 8 days of increasing daylight following the solstice, emphasizing the triumph of light over darkness. Since Hanukkah is based on the lunar calendar, it always occurs during a time of limited sunlight, reinforcing its connection to the natural cycle of seasons. The act of lighting the menorah is not just about remembering the miracle of the oil but also about hope and renewal during the year's darkest time. The sages who established Hanukkah understood the importance of this timing and used it to symbolize divine light and spiritual resilience. The holiday encourages reflection on perseverance and faith, much like the natural world's movement from darkness to light. Each night's increasing illumination reminds us that even in tough times, light can return and bring hope. Hanukkah's themes blend history with the natural world, making it a celebration of both Jewish resilience and the seasonal cycle of light. It's a reminder that even during the darkest days, hope and faith can shine brightly, guiding us toward better times.
Yes. Wow. Again,
That
making that
Hanukkah was based on the lunar calendar.
Hey, First Enoch. I mean, this lesson is over in 15 minutes. Our lessons are from 4 to 6. I try to get in all the information. You want me to, it seems like everybody wants me to stop doing what I'm doing. And so, and give these dates. I can give them to you. The almanac is going to be for a PDF. It'll be for people to get downloaded and have all the dates. But can we do the presentation? And if you're going to be out, I have no problem. That's the same thing that somebody else said too. Oh, well, you can't give me this now? Well, I'm out. Well, then you can leave. There's no problem. But I would say it's your loss. Just have some patience instead of being hurry-come. Too much people love to have their things right away. It's like the spirit of Esau. They want it now. But you're not getting it now. And however you want to look at it and this and that, then you can either go or have some patience and stick around. But that's all there is to it. And please, if you're going to have that attitude, just go. It's It's a spirit I can't deal with. And if you're going to try to shoot anything down, you just want the dates. We kept the Feast of Dedication already. February, just for your information, is the beginning of the scriptural year. Now, that might surprise you. Now you have a reason you can leave. February the 8th or the 7th is the beginning of the true scriptural year. Dedication was already kept. So you can move on now. Passover will be February. When's Passover, brother? We even got that as well. Passover next year will be February the 22nd, and it'll go into the waving of the sheaf to March 1st. All right, there you go. Now, don't let the door hit you on the way out, and let's get back to the lesson. Yeah, exactly. Andrew says giving dates wouldn't help someone who has no patience. Exactly. I'm telling you, man. Nova Nordis firms still uses the bull and crescent moon symbol to stay nothing new. Yeah, for sure. So, anyways, as we're almost finished, as you look at this screen, we have the true order of Jazz months right here: spring, summer, autumn, and winter. Remember the Jeroboam thing is. So our first month is February. Notice that the second month is the spring equinox, and that's when the heathens begin their new year. And notice what they call that month: Nisan, moon god, attached to the equinox. Look at Tammuz, another god of the heathens. What is it attached to? The summer solstice. Tisri is not even a real scriptural name for the 7th month. It's supposed to be Ethanim, false tabernacles, again, tied to the autumn equinox. And the only thing that they keep right, even though it's a wrong thing, they keep the right name, Tibet is the name of the 10th month. Right, but the 10th month starts in November. This is the true Tibet up here, not down here. So as you can see, our first month is their 12th month. Our second month is their first. So if you take a look at this, you can screenshot it. It lets you know every time there's an equinox or a solstice, some pagan god is being worshipped. Even though they try to squeeze Nisan in the book of Esther, there's no such thing as Nisan being the first month of Jazz years. It's supposed to be a bib very clearly. All right. Well, there you go. Let's move on. Okay, we've already saw this. Again, though, you remember them talking about that 8 days again and, burning the candle for 8 days for Hanukkah and all of that. Again, this is a pattern, right? Okay, what do we got here? 51. Let me see. Let's go to, we're not going to go to this one. I think it's a little bit long, and I'm going to give you another video. Here we go.
The most important day in the year for our Neolithic ancestors of Europe was the winter solstice, what we would know as the shortest day of the year, what our ancestors thought of as the longest night of the year. And in this video, I'm going to tell you about the ritual and belief that supports our theory of why the day with the longest night of the year was so important to our ancestors, its association with death, rebirth, and the stone monuments that have been built to support this. And so, grab yourself a cup of tea and welcome to Creckenford. To first understand how our ancestors understood the year, we first need to understand how they understood a day. This is because they looked at the world very differently to ourselves, and we can often forget this. Modern beliefs and habits have become so ingrained within us that you probably don't realise how differently we see the world from those people that lived 1,000 years ago, let alone over 10,000 years ago. And one of these differences is how a day was perceived. For us, sunrise marks the start of a new day, but we have much evidence to suggest that our ancestors saw the sun setting as marking the end of one day and the start of another. And if we think about it, the cosmogony of many of the ancestors of Neolithic farmers and the Indo-Europeans, well, the way they perceived the universe had within it creation myths where the beginning had nothing, no light, no sun, sometimes even no God. And then the cosmos came from this, light came to be. sometimes made by God. And so if we apply this template of light following darkness at the start of time, then it would make sense that night time would mark the start of the day, and then light follows. And we do see evidence of this in archaeological sites, and I'll talk more about those in a minute. But we also see evidence that the evening marks the start of the day in ancient texts. Even in the Bible, in Genesis 1:5, there is the line, God called the light day, and the darkness he called night. And there was evening, and there was morning, the first day. And so it implies that the evening comes before the morning in measuring the day. And so you may be asking yourself, well, when did this change? When did midnight or daylight mark a new day? Well, we certainly see this change starting to happen in Greek culture as it evolved, although with multiple administrative centres, there was no one dictate across that region that made it change in unity and have the same understanding. But we definitely see this sort of acknowledgement of daylight marking a new day. And this was taken by the Romans, because the Romans did take a lot of things from Greece. And by the end of the Roman Empire, days were pretty much defined as sunrise as opposed to sunset. And so now we can start to understand why this is important for us to understand, because if we take the day as starting at sunset and the beginning of the night, then so the year could be considered as beginning with the longest night, the darkest time. And this night was the winter solstice.
All right. This is funny to bring that information out there. This, man them know when a day really starts, right? And
Yes.
that's good information to know. Because we're tidying up now, almost closing down. So again, look at Jaz Abib in February starts. Unleavened bread, we do our thing. And then for March, mid-spring, we don't have no sanctified feasts, but that's when they begin with their feasts, right? And it'll carry over into April, May. And when it comes to midsummer, we have no feast, but they have their Tammuz and they have their summer solstice that they observe something there as well, just like they do with the winter solstice. September is mid-autumn. We have no feast. And this is when they have their tabernacles in September, October, in their Tisri. And again, here we are, Sabbat, 11th month, midwinter, no feast, but it's their 10th month when they're going to have their winter solstice and their Hanukkah and all that stuff. So again, when you take a look here, you see, again, Jah's feasts are separate from their feasts. Their feasts are tied to these things, whereas Jah feasts are not tied. All right. So I think this is the last video here. And let's take a look.
The wheel of the year is ever turning. Autumn passes to winter, winter to spring, and so surely as the first frosts once took the earth, so spring blooms into summer. At the height of the season is June, and it is in this month, at the very pinnacle of the year, that we find the ancient celebration of Midsummer. For 2,000 years, Midsummer has been a key time in Christendom, namely St. John's Eve, the birth of the Baptist. Even before then, and after, in the parts not Christianized, the summer solstice has always been an auspicious time. It is here that the land is at its greenest, the days at their longest, and all the earth most vigorously fertile. If midwinter is a time where the earth is dead, the high days of June speak of life and the joys of the world. Yet even as midwinter carries a secret promise, the lengthening of the days, the birth of Christ, so midsummer has a darker side. It is the longest day of the year, yes, but also the beginning of their shortening. It is the peak of fertility and the onset of decay. It has long been called fitting that John the Baptist, whose birth 6 months presaged that of Jesus, said of him, "He must increase, but I must decrease." The lengthening days of the year have ended. The anticipation of summer is over. Still many warm days await, yet the wheel turns and autumn looms ahead. As noted, the tradition of feasting at midsummer is very old. It reaches back far into prehistory, beyond all records, though perhaps not all reckoning. Of St. John the Baptist, it is told in the Gospel of Luke that when the Archangel Gabriel appeared to inform the Virgin Mary of Christ's conception, he also told her that her cousin, Elizabeth, was 6 months pregnant. Thus it was that St. John and Jesus were born at the diametric opposites of the year, one upon each solstice. Christ at the darkest growing to light, St. John at the brightest turning to dark. The fact that St. John's Eve supposedly celebrating his birth precisely 6 months before Christ's, is nonetheless held on the 24th of June, not the 25th, has been the cause of much discussion. Frequently, it has been posited that this was one of the many attempts by the early church to co-opt pagan festivals, intentionally moving St. John's Eve to concur with the pre-existing midsummer traditions. Again, however, this seems untenable. In actual...
All right. There was a little bit more to that, but I see our time is short. But you see how they're connecting the summer solstice with the winter solstice because they're 6 months apart and trying to deal with the Messiah. And this is why they're trying to say, this is when Jesus, was born, and we know it's the pagan sun god worship and all of this and that. So as we finish off, again, this is one of the verses, again, we have to pay attention to that's going to kind of put everything into perspective.
Jeremiah chapter 10, verse 1. Hear ye the word which Jah speaketh unto you, O house of Israel. Thus saith Jah, learn not the way of the heathen, and be not dismayed at the signs of heaven, for the heathen are dismayed at them.
So I know many people know this verse, but when you really look at it, I want you to focus before we even go anywhere. It says, they're dismayed at the signs of heaven. That's what they're talking about. Mean dismayed, they're caught up into that, the heaven being something of, superstitious and omen, signs for us to keep holy things and all kind of things. They're in dismay at them, right?
Mm-hmm.
So notice that they're in dismay with the heavens he's talking about. And then he goes on to, he's letting us know that, up there what's the sky. But then as we continue in the verse, what do we see? Verse 3.
Verse 3. For the customs of the people are vain. For one cutteth a tree out of the forest, the work of the hands of the workmen with the axe. They deck it with silver and with gold. They fasten it with nails and with hammers, that it move not.
That's right. So you see, what I'm trying to show here is that, okay, we know the tree's pagan, and it's the central theme of everything. As you know, the tree, you put your gifts under there, everybody decorates it, it's in the living room, it's brightening up the place. You put a pagan star on top of it, or an angel, because a star can represent an angel. And what do you think that angel up there is? Anything righteous? It's dealing with the devil. Baal, sun worship, the light bringer. You know who that name has that name. And what do you think is going on there? It's all about decorating this thing. And we know about the tree thing, but I want you to see the connection of it. They deck it with silver and gold to reflect what's up in the sky. They're doing it at when? The solstice.
That's right.
During midwinter, not the beginning of winter, but midwinter. That's heavy stuff. It's heavy stuff letting you know. This is why this tree here, although they do it with the evergreen and there's all kind of other things, just notice that they always put like a satanic angel or a marker at the top, because that's what they're dealing with. You understand? Because truthfully, the equinoxes, the solstices are the middle of Jah's seasons. You understand? The middle of Jah's seasons. So as we say before, any calendars that use the equinoxes and solstices as the beginning of seasons are in error. Right? Doesn't matter if it's the Gregorian calendar, the Julian calendar, the professed Hebrew lunisolar calendar, the Enoch or Enochian calendars, the Mazzaroth Zodiac lunisolar calendars, Abib barley luni calendars, new moon lunar Sabbath barley harvest calendars, ancient Egyptian Babylonian lunisolar calendars, pagan Greek and Roman lunar calendars, the Ethiopian Greek Orthodox 360 plus 6 day. All of these things are pagan calendars because they first of all deal with the equinoxes and solstices as the beginning of seasons, and we teach that they're the middle.
That's right.
I'm gonna give that last video's 1 minute, and let me just play it. It's 1 minute and 50 seconds. Okay, the tree one. Okay, I just want to show you how this tree is linked to the sun.
Let's instead look at one found almost exclusively in Britain. This is the Yule log. The Yule log, also called a Yule clog, is a log chosen to be burnt during the celebration. Traditionally, the log has been a very large chunk of wood, burning over a period of several days, during which it was believed to ward off foul spirits and elements. The precise origins of the Yule log are unknown, but it has long been assumed to descend from the Anglo-Saxon folkfaith. Comparing the practice of the log to what we know about Germanic religion, certain parallels do seem to emerge, which might help to explain its origin. Wood, or more correctly, trees, filled a central role in the faith of the Teutons. And in this way, the Yule log may be related to another key part of Christmas. Today, the Christmas tree is arguably the most important holiday tradition. It is the literal center of the festivities, around which people dance, sing, and place presents. Neo-pagans have often been quick to claim that Christmas trees are an obvious pagan inheritance. And for this reason, trees were often viewed as sacred by the old Teutons. It was common for trees to be placed in the middle of courtyards and religious sites, thus defining that area through the presence of a cosmic axis around which it could revolve. Here, a parallel with the Christmas tree immediately stands out. Like the world ash and sacred trees of folkish faith, the Christmas trees stand as centers of the holiday, literally in the very middle of the festival. It is, as mentioned before, the point around which people dance, around which they sing, around which they move and celebrate. In other words, during the course of the holiday, the Christmas tree is the axis mundi. Christmas today is a Christian holiday. There's no doubt about that, nor any reason to contest it. At the same time, however, it also remains Yule. Angels may now fly through the northern skies, but the heart of winter has not changed. Not since those very first Teutons began honoring the gods at Yule, all those many years ago. To look out into the midwinter night is to gaze past the veil of mid.
To look out into the midwinter night, eh? Well, I hope you got some understanding. If you notice, he talked about the tree was the center of their cosmology. You understand?
Yeah.
And, we linked up a map with it. This is what it's all about. Not just, like I say, there's pagan things on earth, but they're really reverencing the heavenly elements, which is satanic, and they're formulating satanic astronomical calendars and time frames. So I hope you got some understanding. I really thank all the brothers and sisters for tuning in, for I know that this topic is one that is can be quite in-depth, but nonetheless, as always, all praise, glory, and honor to Jah, Yah, our Abba, and his only begotten Son, Jehoshua, the Messiah, the Nazarite, that died for our sins, also known as Yehoshua, Yahusha, Yahawashai, Yahshua, Yeshua, Jesus, Joshua, HaMashiach, the Messiah, the Christ. All praise, glory, and honor to the Father and Son.
Praise Jah.
Yes, definitely unknown person, definitely nature, pagan worship. And when it's nature and pagan worship, it's creation worship, which leads back to the devil. So good connection. Yeah, bless up everybody. I pray all goes well with everyone. May everyone have a sound mind, healthy body, and a repentant heart towards the Most High and his Son. Don't believe in no Trinity. It's just the Father and the Son. The Father is the Holy Spirit. And may his Spirit guide you in the Messiah's love. Bless up, Brother Javed. Thank you again. And again, all the brothers and sisters of Zion. Yes. Bless up, Sister Janessa. Thank you.
Thanks.
Bless up, Corey.
Yes, thanks.
Yes, Judah Blaze. Bless up. One love to you all. And have a good week. And hopefully, if we have another lesson, we'll have a lesson this Wednesday night, 7 o'clock-ish or so. Is Wednesday the pagan thing too?
It might be.
Oh,
might be.
If it's there, yeah.
We're
doing ours on.
Wednesday. Yeah, Wednesday's the 23rd. Yeah.
It's Wednesday's. We're going. Yeah, Wednesday's actually the 24th, right?
Oh yeah, yes, you're right.
But the nighttime would be. So I guess yeah. Yeah, we'll see. Midwinter is the 23rd. Yeah. All right. And for those who want to see the date of next year, Adar, whatever it is, coming up, there's a calendar, but I'm not going to get into it right now. But these are the calendars that are for sale. If you want to get one, go to the education shop. Was it? educationshop.com. And you can either get yourself what's it called, the desktop calendar, or this calendar for this year. And I'm going to try to put out a little bit of a study on it. Keep saying that, but a study on it hopefully maybe soon. It's set up, but I just want to get out soon so people can know how to read the almanac and get it. And yeah, I'll be having the PDF as a free download for a little while. But obviously people got to pay for, if it's like this, right? And that's what it's about that way. But otherwise, you can still get the dates. We'll have the dates for the people to keep the festivals throughout the year. And every single year, for that matter. All right, man. I think that is it.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Bless up, give thanks, Brother Sean. And I would encourage everyone to visit the education shop and get a copy of Jah's Almanac. If you're serious about keeping Jah's holy feast days and learning about this Almanac, because it'll be beneficial for your salvation. And have a good week. Fight the temptations that are out there, because they want to pump that spirit of Christmas in you when you're out there shopping and buying things, and just do your best to overcome these things and know that these things are satanic and false. You might see family members and people close to you who might be keeping these things. Do your best to educate them and help them to come out of the fire that they're in.
Mm-hmm. That's right, brother. Our one love to all. Auntie Alma, Mama Greg, Zion family, you know who you are, everyone. Bless up, Jaron. One love.
Yeah, man.
Hallelujah.
Praise Jah.
Mm-hmm. All right, brother.
All right. Bless up, everyone. Have a good week. Until next week, Jah willing.
Mm-hmm.
Give thanks and praises to Jah and his son, Jehoshua the Messiah, for dying and shedding his blood for our sins.
Yes.
Yeah, man. Bless up, everyone.
Bless up, Lion. All right. Unless we have any comments or questions, I'm going to be locking down. Thank you for watching. And if you have any questions, you could always email me, zionofjah@gmail.com. Very simple. Don't forget to subscribe. Give some thumbs up, too, if you're in the room. Hey, give some thumbs up so it can go out there. Other people can watch it. I appreciate that. All right. Bless up, everyone. And shalom.